What is up, everyone? We are back for episode number 8 of the In Between Time podcast. As we get deeper into the summer and everybody's getting outside, enjoying the sunshine safely, I hope, we sort of decided to scale back a little bit. And our plan now going forward is we're going to do one show every other week. And as always, we appreciate all the feedback. We really appreciate everybody who listens to the show. We had so much fun last week with the debate topics, and I think we're just going to stick to that recipe for this show. But as always, we have to start with the best thing that happened this week. Raul, what was the best thing that happened to you this week?
Well, I learned a new card game. It's called Viuda, which means widow in Spanish. And it's basically like a really fun poker game. First time ever playing it, and I won a $60 pot right off rip. So that was really cool. And, you know, it really got me to open up in front of Gabby's family. So that was just another little bonus because I was playing with Gabby's side of the family. So that was nice, too.
Opening up in front of Gabby's family is the new podcast with Raul coming out next weekend. Who was playing? How many people were playing? Were you a little intimidated playing with your family? How did that all go down?
You know, there was 10. The game's supposed to have up to 9, but they added a 10th, so they just added another deck, which made the game crazy. Intimidated a little bit at first, but once they told me it was poker, I went straight into poker mode. I told Gabby immediately afterwards, I'm like, I am not going to lose this game. I figured out the strategy, and I was ruthless, because that's what you have to be. You have to be a cold piece to get all the chips. And let me tell you something, I walked out with all the chips, and they loved it.
For those of you who don't know, Vegas Raul is a whole different animal. Xander, what was the best thing that happened to you this week?
Wow, you got into gambling this week, Raul. That sounds like a great week. For me, I don't know if you guys know this, but Zach and I have recently started, guess what, a rock band. I'm on the keyboard. Before July 1st, I had no experience on the keyboard, but I decided to teach myself a few chords to see if I could keep up with the king over here, Zach Cohen. I don't know if you guys know this, but pretty talented guitarist. So he and I started our own band. I'm not going to tell you the name of it just yet. Maybe when you're older, but I think we got some potential. Played our second gig tonight in front of Richie G and the rest of the Gersten family. So.
Are you guys like that band in Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist that doesn't have a drummer? Are you guys going to get like one of those little virtual drum kits that's just going to be your drummer?
So funny, Chloe's brother-in-law, Max's future brother-in-law, was up visiting this weekend. And he said he played drums a little bit. Oh, Brad, how long does that mean you've been playing drums for? Yeah, since I was in 7th grade. And I had to shred the drums. So we had a whole band practice session, and we, a little bit biased, but I think we sounded all right. Xander, what was your favorite song to play that we played so far?
Well, it's obviously Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis. I mean, I don't know if Max Gersten considers himself much of a singer, but if you play the opening chords to that song, I swear to God, that man will be lifted from the grave to belt out those lyrics, and belt he can. That kid can sing.
Slip inside the eye of your mind. Don't you know you might find a better place to play? The best thing that happened to me this week, I went fishing. It was actually last night. And I feel like I did a great thing for the Brant Lake community because there was a great white shark in the lake. This thing, I mean, if you've seen Jaws, it was probably a little bigger than Jaws. And I caught it last night. I mean, this thing must have been 20 feet long, sharp teeth, probably would have caused an accident. Jokes aside, it was probably like a 3-pound bass, but I felt great about catching this fish. It was like the old man in the sea, but like the, middle-aged man in the lake. It was Raul, you should read that book. It's your job. I felt great about it. I felt like I was sort of one with nature. I threw it back, but I took a picture, and I was pretty pumped up about this fish.
I feel like the picture has to be the photo for this podcast this week. Is that possible?
We can make, Rick, can you digitize that photo? Okay, Rick says we can make it happen, so we will make it happen. Raul, you have a question about the fish?
Are you taking Polaroids or something like that? Digitize? How old are you? 2, I thought you were talking about Ben Berlin after you fished him out of the lake after he fell in. talking about how big that thing was.
Yeah, he says I pushed him, and I will deny that to the grave. All right, we're going to move on, guys. Our fan response of the week. Again, we got a good amount of feedback, as always, last week about our show. But before we get to our fan response of the week, we've got to pay our bills. And who is our sponsor for this show's fan response of the week, Raul?
All right, guys. This week, the fan response of the week is brought to you by Aviation Mall. Every camper's favorite place to buy things at Spencer's Gifts that are wildly inappropriate and will almost certainly be confiscated immediately. Come in for the 2 meats, 1 side, $5 Chinese food. Stay because it almost made you poop your pants. Aviation Mall, where the movie theaters are so empty, it's virtually impossible to get kicked out.
And of course, I'd like to take this moment to remind our viewers that this copyrighted podcast is presented by authority of Brant Lake Camp and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this podcast may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the aforementioned Brant Lake Camp. Okay, folks, we got a couple really, really great emails, but we're going to do something a little bit differently this week. I got a text from my good friend, Leo Kone. He sent me an emoji. It's a little video of him as the poop emoji, and he's explaining his thoughts on last week's episode. So I'm going to try to play it now. Rick, we might need your help in the future to make sure this sounds all right, but I'm going to try to play it. Let's hope this works.
All right, Xander. I was going to type a response here, but instead I thought it would be easier to say it out loud as a little poop emoji. Just listened to the beginning of the podcast. I need to respond to the sponge versus bins debate. I'm running out of time here, but I just want to say the sponge is the most heinous, filthy thing at Brant Lake Camp, and Raul, I personally judge you for picking the sponge over the bin. Also, love the move by Judy. If you're getting a website, you might need office space. Let me know. I'll hook it up. We can do that. Just hit my line. Last point here. We have to address the kid who gets the sponge and is upset about it, goes over to the bin, doesn't wring out the sponge, and then just makes a mess of the table, and then wipes all of the water and tries to get it on all of the kids on the table. Shame on you, all of you.
All right.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. I can't believe we forgot the bitter sponge getter. That's a Brant Lake staple as well. But yeah, thanks again for everybody that reached out. Really, really cool to hear from everybody. And thanks again to Rick K for adding the virtual audio fan response of the week for the first time. It only took us 8 episodes. So thank you, Rick. All right. As I mentioned before, this week we are going to stick with our first take themed debate show, as I think it stirred up a little bit of conversation amongst the Brant Lake community. So we've got 3 great topics this week, and let's get right to it. Topic number 1, we're going to talk about the 2 new league sports that get added when you join or when you move on to senior camp. So, of course, we've got leagues volleyball and league softball. For those of you guys who haven't been seniors yet, I promise you those will be your 2 favorite league sports by far. But today we've got to settle it once and for all. Leagues volleyball versus league softball. You walk down the hill from lunch, you know leagues are going to be posted. What's the one that you're going to be the most excited about? We're going to start with you, Raul. Leagues volleyball or league softball?
Well, I'm gonna go with softball, but there's a lot of factors. It's a lot of interesting stuff. There's the odd occasion where we play a softball game on the senior baseball field. It's not the same.
No, sorry. Let me cut you off for a second. We're talking league softball in the interfield versus leagues volleyball. League softball in the senior field, that's not. I agree with you. That's not in the equation. That doesn't really count. So let's go league softball in the interfield, leagues volleyball.
I'm gonna go league softball, and only because there's a huge humor aspect to the games. And when it's done right, it adds to the games so much. because you're out there, you're trying to hit dingers, or you're trying to just kill the softball, but then there's a strategy that comes into play. It's like you don't want to hit the ball in the air. You want to hit it really hard on the ground, and then some of the plays that come about it defensively are bananas. It's just some of the coolest, game moments that I remember happening. Like you could see somebody rob a home run during one of these games. You can see somebody hit a grand slam in one of these games. It's things that you don't normally see in a regular league's game. It's like the da-da-da moments in these games are bananas. Volleyball, it's also very intense. It's a lot of fun. The new volleyball courts adds a little something because you do get the side by side, so you get a little bit of like up and down on both courts. But like playing that softball game, for me personally, officiating that softball game and then adding a rule to like piss kids off or something like that makes me happy. It's like that rule that I added where it's like if you swing and miss, that's an automatic 2 strikes, and you just struck out. It makes me laugh every time, and that's a lot of fun for me. So I really enjoy the softball.
All right, Xander, softball or volleyball?
Oh, believe me, I love to acknowledge that Raul really takes pleasure in picking on kids when they can't hit the ball. So that's great. So that might make me lean a little bit more towards softball. But I will give softball credit because there are a lot of moments when kids, maybe if they're not so good at hitting a baseball, they can whack the stuffing out of a softball. I think Jack Bluestein is a kid who comes to mind. That kid could rake when it came to softball. It was really fun to watch. Wasn't the best baseball player, but he was the cleanup hitter in a softball game, and there are kids like that who are just like, maybe baseball's not their favorite sport, but softball is a completely different game, and it's a lot of fun to watch. All that said, I'm a volleyball man myself. The way you put it about strategy, I think strategy is much more applicable in a volleyball game, and as a coach, it's a lot of fun to be a part of those because even in a B game, usually, you and I are with the B's and C's. So those guys have all been playing volleyball for a year or two, so they got a little bit more talent. So even in a B game, when maybe the talent level might be lower, there's still enough quality to the play that you can implement a little bit of strategy. And then at that point, it's really, which team is taking it more seriously. And I really haven't had a problem with my league's teams of, the kids taking it seriously. So my team, tends to come out on top in those situations. And that's what I look for, and that's what I want. Softball's a little bit different. Sometimes it's just kind of luck of the draw. Sometimes it's more of a talent-based game. But volleyball, I think there's a lot more strategy involved, and it's a lot of fun to coach.
So I feel like softball, it's hard for me to choose here, and I won't pick a side, but I feel like softball sort of feels like you're kind of just hanging out with your friends, which is great. It's a great experience. And I feel like volleyball is a little bit more intense and competitive. And so, again, if that's what you're looking for, then I would probably side with volleyball. If, it's a really hot day and you kind of just want to hang out and casually play some sports and, run the bases hard and make plays in the field, hopefully, and swing the bat and do the whole thing, softball's pretty great. It's hard to go wrong with softball. I mean, Xander, did it, as someone who's both coached and participated in these league sports, does it make a difference whether it's playing versus coaching? Does that sway you one way or another?
I certainly enjoy playing softball. I think if it were just a casual day, where if we were doing it for hobbies, I might choose softball over volleyball because then that everyone at softball wants to be there. And the quality of the game will be pretty good. And, you might get some action in, left field that you wouldn't if you were playing just in leagues. But I think if it were a leagues game where everyone, had to take it seriously, or I guess you don't have to, but you would hope everyone's going to take it seriously, I think I'm a volleyball guy there.
Raul, counterpoint?
Yeah, no, not really. I get what you're saying. But again, it's just the fact what you said. It's the beauty of softball is the fact that you have a kid that might hate baseball, but come softball, he wants to be the catcher. The catcher position in softball is hilarious. I've seen some really good kids. I believe Sporn was a very memorable catcher. Again, it's just. That's a sport that you don't have to be the best athlete to be really good at. So to me, that's always going to be a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun to be up there.
Yeah, I think softball kind of embodies a bit sort of like the vibe of this podcast in a sense. It's almost like in between time during the real time, sort of just hanging out with your friends, talking a little trash, swinging the bat, making the plays. When everybody kind of gets it and everybody knows, like, we've got to play this hard to make this fun, but, if we're not diving back into second base, that's okay. I think softball's pretty great. But again, if you're feeling like, you want the competitive juices that day and you want the team chemistry and teamwork and that kind of thing, and there's not much better than volleyball. And certainly green and gray volleyball is the most competitive sport, maybe of the whole 4 days, really. If you haven't been around it, you haven't seen it, you'd sort of think, how could volleyball be, more intense than like a basketball game or a soccer game? But I'm telling you, those green and gray volleyball games are, among the most blood pressure raising, intense, hold everybody back off the lines moments of the entire 4 days. So certainly something to look forward to. Xander, I'll give you the last word on this one.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up green and gray. I think that's right because, in green and gray, or in volleyball in general, there's a point limit that you have to reach. You don't win until you reach that number of points. It doesn't matter how much you're down or how much you're up. The game doesn't end until someone reaches the certain number of points. So I think that will always add to the intensity. It's like the All-Star game this year in basketball. It's like when you know that there's a limit that you have to reach, I think that always adds to the intensity, both if you're winning, because then the pressure's on, and you're losing, the game's not over. So I think, for me, volleyball is the sport that I would choose. And, I play both of those. Those are the two sports I play as a counselor. Those are my events. And I think, I love softball. It's a lot of fun. But really, volleyball is like, when I think of like a green and gray intense sport, I think volleyball.
All right, we'll leave it there. Look, we're going to move on to topic number 2. Again, first year in senior camp, leagues basketball, you've got 2 destinations to play games, whether it's, we'll say leagues, we'll say, tournaments, the toilet paper tournament. As you get older, varsity games, and then you have the green and gray games and the counselor games. But I want to hear from you, Raul as a spectator, Xander as a spectator, where you prefer, certainly neither of you guys are going to be participants, where you prefer to be involved with basketball games. Would you like to watch a full camp, crowd, spectated basketball game on center court? Or would you prefer the full camp, full crowd, packed house, spectated game in the arena? Xander, give you the first word.
This might sound like I'm picking and choosing, but I think if it's that first game against Echo Lake, I want that game to be played on center court because the senior C's come dressed up, painted up, ready to go. And that feeling when they run down from arts and crafts, I don't know how that could be kind of replicated in the arena. So for that, maybe it's only that one game. But for that one game, I think I want to say center court because, it's right there. It's in the center of camp. You got the kids running down. They've been waiting for this moment ever since they saw the senior C's do it when they first started coming to camp. We've said before on the podcast that that's like the closest feeling you get towards breaking green and gray. It's almost like a practice run. So I think if we're talking whole camp spectating, I think at least in that instance, I want to lean towards center court.
Raul, jump in.
I see your point there, but I gotta go off of a personal experience, and it's one of the games that I don't remember exactly. It was Big Bob's year, and it was supposed to be played on center court, but it was raining, so we were moved to the arena, and I remember thinking like, oh man, that's not gonna be as good. It's like center court, everyone's there. It's just center court, and we get to the arena, and I think. Echo was putting. They were putting a hurting on us, or was it Baco? It might have been Baco. It was Baco. It was Baco. Baco was putting a hurting on us, because they're a whole year older than we are. But they had a pretty big lead, and then just Big Bob just went off. He was just hitting 3 after 3 after 3, and then just hearing the roar from the crowd and the echoing that happens in the arena. It's just, you don't think about it, but when you start hearing people cheer in the arena and that sound starts to bounce off of the walls and it's basically trapped in the arena, it's one of the most ruckus crowds one of the best like ambiances to be in. You know, even in the counselor games, when you see it, like this past summer, the counselor A game, again, it was moved there, I think, due to rain, and it was just ruckus. It's just the trapping of the sound is bananas. So I'm going arena every time.
Okay, so I'll jump in a little more here because I guess I have a little more experience with like certain aspects of this than you guys do. The game you're talking about was incredible. That Baco game, we were down at halftime. Definitely Robbie Mans had a big game, but Hunter Reed, I played the best I've ever seen him play in my life in the second half of that game. Probably scored like 25 points in front of the whole camp. Had a moment. It was incredible. I'll agree with Xander. I think that if everybody is rooting for the same team in the crowd, I think you want the game on center court. I think kind of the view, the sort of the sun setting, the lights on, get the whole camp wrapped around the hill, just the feeling of everybody being in the center of campus, everybody rooting for Brant Lake, you know, playing against an Echo or a Baco or a Racket or another camp. That feeling, that atmosphere, that environment can't really be matched. I think if the crowd is split, so, you know, green and gray is obviously the example. Again, I think the arena is just an unmatched environment. You've got so many people in such a small space, and the noise, the acoustics in that gym are so loud. You know, it almost, having played in that game last year or was on the court while the game was going on is probably more accurate, honestly. But, you know, like, it feels like there are way more people than the actual number of people that are in the building because it's so loud. Coaching, though, give me center court any day of the week because you just can't hear a thing in the arena. But I think that if everybody is rooting for the same team, I think I'll take center court. I think if the crowd is split 50-50, I think I prefer the arena. Xander, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's exactly right. I love when games get played in the arena, and I think honestly, the one time that I do like when the whole camp is rooting for one team to be played in the arena is the toilet paper game. Because I think having the toilet paper game played in the arena when the whole camp is rooting for one team is really cool. I just like the way it looks when the toilet paper goes above the rafters. I think it's really a lot of fun. It's kind of a mess to clean up, but I think that's the one time where I would pick the arena for a full camp rooting for BLC.
Raul, what do you think?
I mean, I think for the comfort's sake, for sure, center court, because, you know, like you said, you get that whole wrap around. Everyone has they're a good amount of space. I like the arena. I like the whole everyone's packed in there. Like the senior seats are, you know, under the hoop. You know, the seats that we have basically were like wrapped around the hoop, and you get a little bit of that player. Like every now and again, you get a player crashing into you. That adds to the excitement, you know, like they're going full speed, and it's just like, or when they thud into the door and the doors fly open, it just adds to the whole, you know, experience. So yeah, I'm sticking to the arena. I really enjoy it. I love watching basketball games at camp are the best, and you know, I've always loved watching them on center court. But no, I'm sticking with the arena for sure.
Yeah, I think playing in the game again, like playing in the counselor basketball game last year, you know, I hit my one shot and the ball happened to go in, and you hear the crowd roar probably because they were so surprised that it went in, and you get that feeling, and it's just like, wow, that's a lot of people screaming. It's pretty cool. I'd be curious to hear if there are any Echo Lakers, Baco guys, Racket Lake guys happen to stumble upon this podcast. As an away player at a Brant Lake game, which atmosphere scares you more, center court or the arena? If there are any people from other camps listening, shoot us an email, inbetweentimeBLC@gmail.com. All right, we're moving on to topic number 3.
Oh.
We've got perhaps the best day and perhaps the toughest day of the summer, but I'm curious about the processes and which one you find more difficult, more taxing, more exhausting, and more miserable. We are talking, of course, about unpacking versus packing. So, you've got your bunk full of kids, 8, 10 kids, got the senior camp. They all kind of know the deal. They're all friends at this point. They all just want to get their summer started. They want to do activities already. But they've got 2 massive suitcases that they've got to unpack. and we've got to get everyone in that bunk unpacked, organized, without losing anything, with an equal amount of space, and everybody's happy with the bunks and their cabinets and their covers. That's scenario number one. Scenario number two, it's the day of the banquet, so the last full day of camp, and we've got to get everyone packed. Read and gray is over. Generally, it's about 157,000 degrees out, okay? And, yeah, counselors are sort of done. Kids are kind of checked out. Everybody, no one really wants to go home, but everybody's sort of exhausted from the summer. And we've got to make sure that everyone brings all of the things they came to camp with, for the most part, back home in a reasonably organized fashion. So, Raul, I'll give you the first word. Worst day for you, unpacking day or packing day?
I'm going to go unpacking. And the reason I'm going to go unpacking is because what comes before the unpacking? All right, when you pack, what comes before packing is me grabbing the duffels out of under the senior clubhouse. So that's not very much. The duffels are empty. I'm just throwing bags because they're light. What comes before unpacking is a trailer full of duffel bags that are packed to the brim. You say 2, but I'm pretty sure I've seen 3 duffels come in for a single kid, weighing about 100 pounds each. And again, we have to lug those to the bunk in which this kid's gonna stay. Now I'm gonna add something here. I also unpack and pack in the complex. You're talking about one bunk. You got 12 kids. Good for you. Xander's been with me in the trenches. There's 4 counselors at best in the complex. And again, 2 of those guys have to go watch the kids play on the turf while the other half is unpacking. So it's a ruckus. I'm getting complaint after complaint. These kids don't know how to unpack. They're just throwing stuff in drawers. They're losing things that they don't even know that they have, if they have them or not. It's crazy. Packing, you just get a bag and you just throw everything in the duffel bag and zip it up. Now, I will say, somehow, after everyone's packed, there's still so many things left in the complex. I've picked up a sock that had a kid's name on it, and I said, "This is your sock." And he's looked me dead in the eyes, and he says, "I don't want it. Throw it away." And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Your mom's going to kill me. Your duffel bag, you came in with 3 full duffel bags, and you're leaving with 1.5 duffel bags worth of things. It's that's the worst that happens in that day. But unpacking, everyone's excited. Nobody really wants to do it. Everyone wants to take part in camp. Everyone wants to just get the stuff out and get camp going. Packing, everyone's kind of excited to go home. So there's a little bit more of like, all right, let me grab my stuff and prepare myself mentally to get to that transition of being home. So unpacking, way worse.
Xander, what's your thoughts, bud?
Unpacking way worse. Raul, I feel like you don't even stay till the end of the summer. You're not even how can you be so upset? I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from. But I'll say for me, packing at the end of the summer is much worse. And judging by Zach's description for both packing and unpacking, it seems like he agrees with me. It is 1,000,000,000 degrees. It's always miserable. I guess maybe you're excited to go home, but like the feeling of, oh, let me pack because that'll make me get home quicker does not cross my mind. I'm still getting home at the same time. So packing's just as miserable of an experience. For unpacking, it's like, oh, if I get this done quickly, I can get the summer started quickly. That's a real cause and effect. For packing up at the end of the summer, that doesn't really exist. The bus leaves at the same time no matter what. So like I still have not as much incentive to, assuming I'm a camper, to go and pack up my stuff. So I'll say packing at the end of the summer, I mean, it's the last day. That's no fun. The first day is much more fun. There's an excitement to it. I mean, we do have to lug the bags down to the complex or to the different bunks. That is true. But like, there's still, you still got to camp moderately recently. You're still hanging out with some counselors that you're getting to know or counselors that are your buddies. So it feels just like one of those work days that, you can kind of shoot the breeze with your friends and just move some stuff, and it's not the worst thing in the world. That last day, that's really tough. I mean, the best part of it is maybe going down to the lake one last time, but there's still there's a sadness to it that I don't think exists on the first day. I mean, the first day is filled with a lot more excitement. So I'll say packing at the end of the summer is worse.
So I didn't really take a side in either of the other two, but for sure for me, packing is worse. I don't even think it's reasonably close, because you've forgotten the critical piece that comes with packing, which is also cleaning. Now, the beginning of the summer, those bunks are clean. So all you got to do is get the clothes out, get them into drawers, get the stuff away, and get rid of the bags. Once everything is packed, if there's a 1A, 1B of what kids don't want to do on their last day with their camp friends, 1A would be pack their things up, and 1B would be clean up the mess after they've already packed the things up. It is an absolute nightmare scenario. But let me pose another question to you guys, a little subcategory for category 3. Thing that will drive you crazier and make you need to go outside so you can scream at the top of your lungs so you don't do something stupid in the bunk and lose your job. Here it is. Scenario 1. Everything is unpacked. All of the bags have been put in other bags. Those bags have been put away where they're going to be for the rest of the summer. And someone left their tennis racket in that bag. That's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2. Everything is packed. We've double-checked everything. We move all of the bags to TYs. They're all in a stack. Everything's there. And someone left their tennis racket out of that bag, and we need to go retrieve that bag and put the tennis racket back in. Which is a worse scenario, Raul, A or B?
It's definitely A, because you have to go get that tennis racket. You have to go get it because the summer hasn't started yet. That tennis racket is going to be needed. Now, if he didn't put it away, guess what he's taking on that bus with him? A tennis racket. I am not going into those duffels. Now, I will add something. Both of you guys, former campers, something tells me your mom did a fantastic job of packing for you. Something tells me you guys weren't the best at unpacking, based on my experiences. Just gonna say that.
It's probably right.
So you're telling me the easiest thing to do, the bunks are clean, all you gotta do is put your clothes in the drawers and in the cubbies. That's a no-brainer. No. You guys don't know how to put your clothes into the cubbies or the dresser drawers. So you're saying it like, this is, again, you're talking to Mr. Housekeeping over here. I'm going down to every bunk and I'm making sure that everything is put away properly, because you guys are always talking about, I don't have enough drawers. No, it's because you got 2 shorts in one drawer, and then you got your tennis racket in a cubby, and you don't have any more space. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. Cleaning, that's easy. That's so easy for me. Everyone's out. Let me get on my housekeeping game. I'll clean that puppy up, no problem. It's organizing for other people. That's way harder.
So Xander, what do you think? Someone has unpacked everything and left an important item in the bag that is now wrapped up in other bags and put away for storage for the summer. Or everything has been packed, the bags are underneath all the other bags full, and we've got to fish that bag out because someone left that important thing under their bed. Which one's worse?
Well, first, Raul's spot on. If that kid didn't put it back, if that kid didn't pack it up, it's going on the bus. That's a no-brainer. But to address Raul's second point, because there was a lot there. Raul, I appreciate the rhetoric. The funny jokes are great. The personal jabs against Zach and me, I guess that's fair game. But all the pretty words is not going to take away from the logic of this matter. And that's straight up that packing at the end of the summer is just objectively worse. That's just the fact of the matter. So I don't care how many housekeeping jokes you have to make or say that Zach and I can't pack a bag. I will tell you unequivocally, having been there, unlike some people, for both the packing and the unpacking, I can say without a doubt that packing up at the end of the summer is worse. And you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who was there on both days who will disagree with me.
I think just hold on. Sorry, I think the general demeanor, right? Like the first day of camp, everybody's in a good mood because it's the first day of camp. The last day of camp, either you're in a bad mood because you have to pack, you're in a bad mood because you're leaving camp the next day, you're in a bad mood because you maybe wanted to go home the day before. Nobody's really excited. Spirits are low. Morale is a little bit low. The first day of camp, everybody in that bunk is excited. I will say though, slight thing to consider for the unpacking being worse side of this argument. A lot of kids do leave before the last day of camp. So there aren't as many people to pack on the last day as there are people to unpack on the first day, which makes the bunk a little bit less crowded. So Raul, I will give you that point. I will give you the floor for the last word. All yours, buddy. Take it away.
I'm just gonna just because Xander thinks that it's so easy. Xander, when was the last year you were like a full-time counselor at Brown Lake? Full-time.
2018.
Did your mom pack your bag for you when you came up to camp?
She did not. That's a lie.
That's a lie. That's a filthy lie.
I don't think she'll listen to the podcast, but she might have to listen to this one. She did not pack my bag. I mean, you can tell by the nonsense that I bring that she didn't pack my bag. When I was a camper, you knew that she packed my bag because she did it right and she knew what she was doing. These days, I don't know. I come with like one shoe, like I'm missing shoelaces, one pair of shorts. So like you know that I'm packing my nonsense.
All right. So again, I just wanted to make sure because something told me that you have no idea what you're talking about. But again, to me, it's always going to be that. I know you guys like get that. I want to add something. I only missed one last day of camp ever in my 10 years at Brant Lake.
Sure.
And again, it's like one of the things for me, again, some of the sentiments that you guys have towards the last day, you guys were campers, you have a special like thing at this. I was a counselor, now I'm the area head. I'm exhausted. So for me personally, it's sad, of course. You don't want to leave this place, this community that you've been a part of for 7 weeks. But, I always say one of the nicest things for me to do when I'm at the airport, I'll have a 16-hour layover or whatever at like a connecting flight in Cleveland, and I'll just sit there and I'm watching a movie and then, I'll just get up and I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to go over there. And I don't have to ask anybody for permission. I don't have to look for anyone. I don't have to make sure anyone's coming with me. So there is that emotion that's connected to me with the packing. It's again, there's sadness, of course, but to me as an adult, I'm looking forward to a little bit of freedom. I'm looking forward to not being attached to 40 kids for a little bit, So that's where that stems from also.
All right, and I think we'll leave it there, guys. Again, another great 3 topics debated very well on both sides. But most importantly, we want to hear from the community of Brant Lakers who listen to our show. So we want to know what you think, particularly people who have been in senior camp. Leagues volleyball versus leagues softball. Watching a basketball game we're playing on center court or the arena. And again, we're talking full camp events, center court versus the arena. And unpacking versus packing day. Which one gives you more anxiety and stress? We want to hear from you. But before we go, there is no way we could possibly end the show without our favorite segment, the Xander Furman Top 10 list. Xander, what do you have for us this week?
All right, folks. I feel like the most contentious debate we had here was on packing versus unpacking. So I figured it only made sense to have a packing/unpacking top 10 list. So without further ado, here are the top 10 things most likely to be overheard unpacking on the first day of camp. Number 10, are you sure you unpacked everything? Number 9, you're sure there's nothing left in this bag. Number 8, I can't find my shoes. Number 7, who stole my shoes? Number 6, I think I left my shoes in my bag. Number 5, my mom says I need a bottom bunk because I'm allergic to the ceiling. Number 4, are you using these drawers? Number 3, The cubbies don't count as drawers, right? Number 2, dude, why did you pack rollerblades? You suck at hockey. And the number 1 thing most likely to be overheard during unpacking on the first day of camp is, I'm not going to use any of this anyway. My mom packed my bag.
And there it is. Incredible as always. The Xander Furman top 10 of the week. Guys, as always, this was so much fun. Episode 8 is in the books. But again, the most important thing to us is the feedback from you guys. So please hit us up. Give us your thoughts. Give us your opinions, particularly on these 3 topics. inbetweentimeBLC@gmail.com. And before we go, any words of wisdom from you, Raul?
Yeah, guys, when life gives you lemons, take the seeds out and plant them. That way you'll get a lemon tree, and you have plenty of lemons to throw back at life.
Words to live by, and that's going to be it for us. So for the 3 of us, prime time is over. You missed your chance to shower, and you can't get water from the health center. Get in your bunks, and we'll see you next time on the In Between Time podcast.
I'm in senior camp.